The 90s, a special decade in history. The 1990s were ideally placed between a period when toys could practically kill you and when the internet took over our minds. It was the final decade when individuals had to depend on their analog talents to get by, but they could also find a good arcade nearby. In this sense, the 1990s represent a rainbow bridge between the antiquated methods of yesteryear and the technological diversions of the future. So without further ado, and in no particular order, here are some of the great things from the 1990s that propelled the decade to the top of contemporary history's charts. Welcome to FASHIONY-Magazine, and before we get started with the video, don't forget to smash the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. You got enthusiastic when a nice song came on the radio. Yes, we also had music in the 1990s. A lot of typical pop songs, but also some weird stuff. There's a lot of it. However, there were different ways to listen to it. Music cassette, CD, or mini disc, and for sure on the radio. Unlike today's music streaming applications, we Gen Xers couldn't just shout a song into the air and have it play over our living room speakers. To be able to accomplish that is quite awesome, in our opinion. However, there remains an element of surprise and joy that has all but vanished. It felt special when you were traveling down the highway in your first-generation Hyundai Accent and one of the popular songs of the period came on. It was almost as if the cosmos was communicating with you via the music. It was like we had our own soundtrack of our lives playing as we squandered cheap gasoline in comparison to current pricing, going nowhere for no purpose. The Simpsons. The Simpsons have aired more than 600 episodes since its premiere on December 17, 1989, making it the longest-running comedy in American television history. The first 10 seasons, which lasted the entire decade of the 1990s, are considered the show's golden age and gained widespread critical praise, with Time magazine ranking it the finest television series of the 20th century. Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, Maggie, and a slew of other memorable characters became household names for kids, teenagers, and adults alike. One of the most impressive aspects of the program is its capacity to remain current and popular as its audience ages. The Simpsons started with Bart as the major character, but as viewers grew older, the emphasis changed to tales featuring more of Homer's funny adventures. The Simpsons were all over apparel, lunchboxes, video games, and toys in the early 1990s. Most 30-somethings had at least one item with early statements like, "Don't have a cow, dude," or "Eat my shorts." The program has been popular for decades because of its wonderful characters, voice acting, and writing, and although the series is significantly less popular than it was in the 1990s, there are still some outstanding episodes being created to this day. You must go out of your way to see your favorite bands. Okay, listen up here. You didn't stroll up to your PC with a cup of coffee in hand to beat the ticket-buying bots before the performance sold out in the 1990s. It wasn't just being able to wake up at 8:30 a.m. and have a solid Wi-Fi connection. We had to wait in line at a mall record shop in the 1990s to receive a wristband, usually at some early time on a Saturday. This was not a ticket to the performance. Having a wristband just indicated that you had earned the right to purchase a ticket, which was another lineup. In other words, if you really wanted to see a band back then, you had to work for it. But gosh, that made the concerts that much more enjoyable for all of the work. The Cold War has ended. While we can't do much to restore post-war peace, it's important to note the pivotal event that set the framework for this decade. The 1990s weren't simply more tranquil than previous decades, they were actually so. The end of World War II was almost immediately followed by the beginning of the Cold War between Soviet Russia and the United States. American families suffered as men were enlisted in the war, and the prospect of a nuclear assault was never far from anyone's mind in our struggle against communism. Americans have been living in dread for over 4 decades. Tensions started to relax in 1990, and the formal collapse of the Soviet Union in December 1992 brought a renewed feeling of calm and safety to the Western world. Although adversity was hardly non-existent, there were a few significant headlines creating history at the time. The United States of Depression. Progressives may argue that being entrenched in the 1990s paradigm is risky. But what if that style of life resulted in a happier, healthier society? What if the progress our nation believes it is making is deceptive? When the growth in depression is compared from 1990 to 2017, there is a 40% increase. Not only that, but suicides increased by 33% between 1990 and 2018. What is the purpose of advancing thought or increasing technology if it seems to put us in a state of disarray? It can't be a coincidence that our nation seems to be disintegrating before our eyes. Society will inevitably suffer when such fundamental areas of our lives undergo the severe alterations that we have permitted. Bill Clinton is as popular as ever in politics. Among the survey's most intriguing findings is that if an election were conducted today between Clinton and Obama, this time, Bill Clinton, almost 3 out of 4 Americans, 74%, would vote for Clinton. Perhaps forgetting the 27-day government shutdown in 1995, 90% of Republicans would choose Clinton over Obama, compared to 61% of Democrats. This might also explain why 61% of Americans believe the government was better overall in the 1990s. Cultural impacts. The O.J. Simpson double murder trial was chosen as the decade's top news event, 23%. And as previously stated, 86% think the juice was guilty. The death of Princess Diana, 16%, came in second place behind the O.J. Simpson trial as the most noteworthy event of the decade. Furthermore, almost half, 47%, feel that Diana's unfortunate death was the result of a conspiracy. Her legacy, however, goes on, with 65% feeling she is a more stylish icon than her would-be daughter-in-law Kate Middleton. This is particularly surprising given that just a quarter of Americans, 25%, believe styles in the 1990s were better than they are now. Movies with epic scenes like King of the World and Life is a Box of Chocolates. Titanic, 21%, concluded in a statistical tie for the greatest movie of the decade with everyone's favorite underdog, Forrest Gump, 22%, despite spending 15 weeks at #1 at the box office, being #2 in total domestic grosses, and winning 11 Academy Awards. The study also showed some positive news for Hollywood film studios. 59% believe movies now are better than they were in the 1990s. Music, epic love songs, and cringy boy bands. Whitney Houston's rendition of I Will Always Love You from The Bodyguard soundtrack comfortably claimed the title for the decade's top song with 32%, edging out Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit with a distant 17%. The 90s were the decade of boy bands with New Kids on the Block, Westlife, NSYNC, Take That, and Backstreet Boys. They dominated the 90s with a combination of catchy pop songs and romantic R&B ballads, producing memorable epic songs that are still evergreen today. The switch from hard rock, punk, and metal from the 80s comes up with a synchronized dance and collectively serenades the audience with romantic ballads. Boy bands were not only about the music and dance, they also market the collective image, brand, and business value. Rachel Green is the decade's celebrity. 3 in 10 males, 30%, selected Jennifer Aniston from Friends as the most crush-worthy 90s starlet, barely beating Christina Applegate from Married with Children, 27%. Our hearts, on the other hand, remained with Leonardo DiCaprio, 28%, who is joined by John Stamos, 23%, and Mark Wahlberg, 16%, as the male figures women most admired. Finally, sorry Angelina, but 35% of Americans selected Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt as the 90s famous couple they wish was still together. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman came in second place with 13%. Overall, the study found that millions of Americans miss many of the fashions and pop cultural elements of the 1990s. From politics and news events to movies and TV series, Americans can't get enough 90s nostalgia in their lives. Kelton Global conducted this survey among 1,019 nationally representative Americans aged 18 and up between May 30 and June 5, 2014, utilizing an email invitation and an online survey. Quotas are established to assure a dependable and accurate representation of the full U.S. population aged 18 and over. This is all from today's video. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. And please tell us, what are you missing from the 90s?